Hey guys, Ray from Love You RV and Boat. So in this video, Anne is going to walk you through and describe a recent bottom restoration on our boat. Basically, it was sanded right down to the gel coat. Many things were fixed at that point, and then some layers of primer would put on, as well as new bottom paint. I think it turned out pretty good. It was a lot more money than we expected, but it should be an investment in the boat anyway. So let's get to it.
Hi folks, Anne McKinnell here. Today I'm diving into the nitty-gritty details of a major maintenance project we tackled on our beloved 1976 CHB Trawler Vestri. When we purchased Vestri last summer, she was ship-shape and ready to go for the season. There were a few upgrades that we made right away, such as an electric toilet, best upgrade ever. We spent most of the summer sailing around Desolation Sound and enjoying our new home worry-free. This year, we're embracing our roles as caretakers of this beautiful old trawler, and we're diving into the maintenance jobs that are ubiquitous on an old boat. The first one that came to our attention was the state of the bottom paint. It wasn't a total surprise. When we had it hauled out of the water for winter storage, I was pretty happy with how it looked. It only had a thin layer of growth on it. But then, it got power washed, and oh my, did that bottom paint come off. In chunks. Big, round chunks. After getting a couple of people to have a look at it, I was advised that it wasn't really all that bad. It only needed a good sanding and more bottom paint. Still, sanding a boat this size is labor intensive, and that job was going to cost $4,000, including all the materials. That's what I was prepared for. When the job got started, though, things took a bit of a turn. The old bottom paint was coming off easily in huge hunks. It sounded like a good thing initially. It would be scraping, not sanding, but still, the estimate was the same. It wasn't until the job was thoroughly underway that a pattern began to emerge. I mean, literally a pattern. There was marine growth under all that paint. This is bad, very bad. Of course, I had to make the best of it, and I took the opportunity for a photo project. But back to the maintenance job. At some point in our history, the bottom wasn't cleaned properly before the bottom paint was put on. It might have even sat for an extended period until barnacles and mussels and who knows what other sea creatures attached themselves to the hull. I had two choices. One, I could pretend I didn't see it and just put more bottom paint on with the knowledge that it would come off when it was power washed in the fall and I'd be in the same position next year. Or two, I could strip it entirely back to the gel coat and do the job properly. At the time, the estimate for job number 1 was still $4,000, and the estimate for job number 2 was $5,500. I figured in the long run it would be best for Vestri to have it done properly. I do like it when things are done properly. So the decision was made to strip it back to the gel coat. Honestly, if I knew back at the very beginning what I know now, I might have made a different choice. I could have just slapped more bottom paint on the holes after the initial power washing and been done with it and just kept doing that year after year. But sometimes you don't know what you're getting into until you get into it, and by then it's too late. The time to take a different path was long gone. As it turns out, it took forever to sand off all that marine growth and get down to the gel coat. And when we got there, a few more surprises awaited. On the bow of the boat, there was a significant piece of gel coat broken off, and you could see the bare fiberglass underneath. This was most likely from hitting a log. It could have happened at any time during our history. We're just lucky that no water had gotten in yet to cause dry rot. I'm glad we found it when we did. On the rudder shoe, which is the piece of the hull that goes under the propeller and rudder and protects them from getting knocked off, there was also significant damage. You could see the bare steel. The propeller and rudder also had significant corrosion. They were sanded right down to the bare bronze. There were hundreds of these little blisters, some small, some large. Fact is, when they made these boats, they didn't have the technology we have today, and the paints just weren't as good. These blisters are commonplace on old boats. To get the job done right, we used 4 coats of Interlux Interprotect 2000E primer. This is the barrier that completely seals the hull of the boat and will prevent the water from making its way in. In my research, I found that this is the deluxe product that many pros use, and while it's more expensive than other primers, at this stage, there is no point in cheaping out on primer. I'm in for the full meal deal now. In between each coat, the blisters were filled with Interlux Watertight. It took 3 rounds of filling holes to get it looking good. It's still not perfect, but it looks pretty darn good for a 50-year-old boat. On top of all that came 2 coats of Interlux Micron CSC. This is ablative anti-fouling paint that will prevent marine growth and protect the hull. It's one of the only paints recommended for boats that are stored on land in the winter. Other paints will not tolerate significant exposure to air. This is also the paint that I had on Snoopy, so I feel confident that it will indeed protect the hull. Finally, we use Seaguard zinc spray on the propeller and rudder. In the end, all told, you better sit down now, the total cost was $8,200. Ouch. So now you know why, if I had known that number, I might have gotten out my paintbrush, slapped some bottom paint on the holes, and said good enough. I kind of wish I had. But Vestri got the best treatment. Who knows what would have happened if those much-needed fiberglass repairs weren't done. If I ever hit a log, it might have caused significantly more damage than one would expect, given the previous hole in the cracks. Now those repairs are done, we know the hull is sound, and it's now completely sealed. Still hurts a little though, but I'm convinced the investment will stay with the boat. Having this work done, and all the proof that goes with it, will add to the value of the boat when it comes time for her next caretakers to take over.